Hey friends, okay, so we are back. We are now going to take our 2D desk that we drafted last week and we will draft it in 3D, okay? So we're going to take this 2D object and we're going to transform it into a three-dimensional one. So the first thing I'll have you do is open up your 2D desk from before. Oh boy, they're seeing all kinds of stuff. Open up your 2D desk from before. Go ahead and file, save as, and let's change it to the 3D desk, right? So we're making a copy of our file. I'm not going to save it there. I'm going to save it in the Vectorworks class. Hold please. Desktop. Vectorworks class. Put it someplace where I can find it. Okay, great. So now I'm working in the 3D desk version of this file, okay? Now, let's go through and transform all of these elements from 2D into 3D, all right? The first thing I'm going to do is take this desktop. We're going to use that as our base and then copy the rest of the geometry from the existing drawing. So I'm going to just duplicate it. I'm going to build my 3D object kind of over here. So Command D to duplicate that lid. And then I'm going to just use my object info to remind me of how big things were when I drafted the last thing. So in this case, my height is 1 3/4 inches. So that will be the thickness of this rectangle when it is the desktop, okay? So I use the command extrude. You'll find it in this model menu, but we always just use the keyboard shortcut, which is Command E. And then you type in the height of the extrusion that you're looking for, and we just said what, did we say 1 3/4 inches? Let's see what we meant, if that was right or not. Yeah, 1 3/4 inches is the thickness of that desktop. Okay, so now after I do that extrude move, Shift C, and you'll see, ooh, she's a 3D desktop. How nice, okay? The next thing we need is how high this will sit off the ground. So I'm going to go Command 5 back into top plan view. And I'm going to just grab my dimension tool real quick. You can also use the measuring tape, but I like to just keep those dimensions out there so I have them. 2 foot 4 1/4 inches is how high that lid is off the ground. X key to get my pointer tool back. And that is going to be then the bottom Z for this lid, for this rectangle. So 2 feet 4 1/4 inches. Now, when we go into the 3D view, you'll see it's floating off the ground, which is what we were hoping it would do. Great, Command 5, back into top plan view. So now I want to create this rectangle that sits underneath. I had to just like wipe my brain and start over. So let's take this rectangle underneath, okay? So we know it is, if you look up here, it is a whole inch in each side less on each edge, right? So in order to make a copy of it, I'm gonna actually come back to my lid rectangle, pick up my offset tool, take that 1 inch offset distance, click inside, and now I have this rectangle. It's going to be the rectangle that sits underneath. And then I'm going to extrude it to the thickness of this frame, which is 2.5 inches. So Command E, 2.5 inches, okay. And then I can bring it over and center it underneath my existing piece. Right now, when I go Shift C, right, it's sitting on the ground. So what I'm gonna wanna do is now raise it up to be directly under that lid. I can do that the way we did before, which was taking a measurement and setting the bottom Z, or I can work in the front view. So if I come up here and I say front view, please, now I'm snapped to the front and I can lift this piece straight up, holding Shift, and snap it to that object. Now we have our frame sitting underneath our desk lid. All right, back to Command 5, back to the top view. Okay, great. Now what? Let's do some legs, okay? So with this 2 3/4, we're gonna just do these as squares, right? 2 3/4 square leg posts. Is that correct? I don't know, maybe not. Maybe not. This is only 2 1/4. So actually it's a rectangle, right? Because of geometry. So it will be a 2 3/4 by 2 1/4 inch rectangle. We're just going to draw that. 2 3/4 by 2 1/4. Okay. And the wider side is facing the front, and let's pull a little measurement, 1/2 inch, right inside that edge. So I'm going to grab this rectangle by the little point on the corner, slide it over here, go, right? Set it into this corner, hit move, and X offset of 1/2 inch, and Y offset of 1/2 inch, and that will seat that just underneath and in a little bit, right? The way that it is on this drawing, okay? Then I will extrude, and this guy is going to be 2 foot 1 3/4 tall. So Command E, 2 foot 1 3/4 inches tall. Okay, let's just see if that looks right. Yep, looks great. Back to top plan view. Now I'm going to use my mirror tool. So I'll pick up my mirror tool. I'll make sure it's in the copy mode, and I will mirror. If I hold Command, it allows me to select things. If I hold Shift Command, it allows me to select multiple things. And then I'll mirror again. So now I have 4 legs. Charming, beautiful, right? What else do we need for this thing? We need these bottom cross pieces underneath, and we need the X on the side and the cross brace on the back. So back to top plan view, let's figure that stuff out. So this rectangle is going to be super easy. Let's see how tall it is. 2 inches tall, great. So I'm going to just come draw a new rectangle. I'm going to snap into the corners and extrude that 2 inches, and then mirror that across to the other side, right? There it is, okay? So that gets me that bottom beam. And then I need this back cross brace. So that will be seated right between that back beam. We might go back and look at our original image. I'm not looking at it right now, and see if it's maybe thinner than the full width. I think it probably would be. So I'm going to go ahead and draw it in that way. So I'm going to draw the rectangle like that, and then move my little dealio to the center here and subtract 1/2 inch, right? Maybe even a whole inch, so minus another 1/2 inch. Yeah, so now that looks a little more, like a little thinner and lighter. I'm going to see how tall it is over here. So I'm looking again at my object info. Height is 2 inches, great. And I'm also going to get a dimension for how far it is off the ground, 8 inches, perfect. So I can come back in here and I can extrude it the 2 inches, and then I can make the bottom Z 8 inches. Okay, here we go. Yes, yes, we're with it, we're having it. Okay, cool. So then the last thing I need are those X pieces on the sides. Back to top plan view, we're just going to take the ones that we have, duplicate them, and manipulate them so that they fit into that space. The first thing I'm going to do actually is add them together and make them one piece. So I'm going to just come to modify and add surface. I'm going to give them a thickness. It's going to be a little less than this is 2 3/4 inches. I think that these are probably only like 1.5 inches. So I'm going to extrude now 1.5 inches. Okay, So now I have this X and it's sitting on the ground, okay? And what I need to do is get it to rotate up into that position, okay? So I'm going to do this in 2 steps. First, I'm going to rotate in one direction and then in the other. So we're going to go to front view. That's the wrong drop-down menu. Look at the front. We're going to pick up our rotate tool. Zoom in so you can see what you're doing. Click, click, shift to snap and rotate it up, okay? Now we want to rotate it this way, okay, so that the flat parts will fit inside the edges of the thing. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to use another secret, which is the working plane, right? So I don't actually have to snap to the front face, although I could, right? I could just go into the right or the left view and I would be looking at this from the side. I can also use the working plane, and the working plane allows you to choose the surface that you are working from, and then you will be making all of your moves relative to that surface. So to select a working plane, we use Shift 1, and then things will highlight, right? Things are going to highlight purple when they get selected. And I want to highlight this front closest to me face as my working plane. Now, if I grab my rotate tool, right, I can go here, and shift will snap it vertical, okay? So there I am, right where I want to be, and I have it all set up, okay? The next move I'm going to make, right, is to place it in the desk, right, inside of the desk. And I'm actually going to do that from the top plan view now that I know I have it in the right place rotationally. So I'm going to come back to Command 5, back to the top plan view, X key, so that I have my cursor back. And I'm going to just place this centered in between the legs, right? And I can snap to that midpoint, okay? The last step for me is going to be to move it up to the appropriate vertical height, and I'll do that the other way, right? So we were using the working plane before. Let's do this way, okay? So you'll see it's nice, it fits between those legs. It actually isn't perfectly lined up, and we will want it to be, so that's something we're gonna tweak. And the way we'll do that is we'll just grab this side handle with the double arrow cursor and snap to that object. Okay, so now it's fitting perfectly, right? Even though before it was a little fudged, something happened in translation. Now I'm gonna move it up. Let's move it up. We're not moving it left to right. We'll just move it up 8 inches and see where it is. See if that's too tall. That is too tall. So let's move it back down. Something like that, okay? When we say Shift C, we should be able to tell whether it's seated in correctly, whether it looks right to us, which I think it does. And then I'm gonna go Command 5 back to the top view and mirror this puppy to the other side, okay? You should feel free to add other details if you are so inclined, but this is what I am looking for from you. If you want to see what this looks like in solids as opposed to wireframe mode, you can switch into OpenGL. That's what it would look like made of solid material, or you can switch into hidden line, and that's what it would look like sort of as a line drawing, okay? So that should give you a sense of where we're headed. Okay, now that we've drafted this in 3D, we need to actually plate it in 3D, right? So the first thing we can do, jump back over to our same plate from before, right? Because we did just copy and paste this. You are going to recreate this content, but using your new drawing. So we will delete these 3 viewports. Goodbye, viewports. It's been real lovely to have you. We'll see you again soon. And you can update your title block that this is the 3D desk project when you get to that point. Let's come back now and plate this 3D object, okay? So the first thing I'll do is delete all of the drawings from before. Don't need them anymore. We're in the whole new world of this new desk, okay? And now we're going to create 3 viewports, top, front, and side, based on this 3-dimensional object. There is another way I'll teach later where you actually draw a cube around the thing and it will plate the sides for you, but we're not going to do that. We're going to start with basic viewport life, okay? Here we are, top view first, okay? So create viewport of the top view, okay? You'll place it on your Gladstone desk drawing. You will call it drawing number 1, top view, right? I would make it 1/2" scale so that we can see it better. And the other thing I would change is the rendering, okay? So we want this to look like the one we did before. So let's use a hidden line rendering, okay? If you wanted to, you could use a dashed hidden line rendering and that would give you the dashed lines of things behind. So if that's something that's helpful for whatever reason, you can totally do that as well. And that will mirror what we did in hand drafting when we were drafting things that were behind. But in this case, we'll just do a regular hidden line rendering, okay? And okay, let's see how it looks. Well, it put it way over here, but looks about right. You obviously can't see the hidden line rendering, right? It looks just like the wireframe, but it is a bunch of diagonal lines. So you hit update, there you go, okay? Next one, let's do the front view, okay? There are a couple of ways to do it. We'll do it first from our design layer. So we come into our design layer, switch to the front view, right here, okay? And then same process, right? So view, create viewport, tell it to be a hidden line drawing, tell it to be the front view, tell it to be in 1/2" scale, and everything else we're good. Okay, 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 and it brings it over. There it is, and update, and now it looks almost exactly like the drawing you just made before. I would snap that there and then move it down so they are lined up correctly, okay? You'll also go in and update your dimensions, right? Of course, you'll do that for sure. So now let's go ahead and get that last view, that side view. We're going to do it another way. So I'm going to just duplicate this existing front view viewport, okay? And as long as we're relatively in the same spot, you can, we're going to call this slide, you can come right over here, scroll down in your object info and change the view to one of the side views, and it will update, okay? And then you'll just need to update and play with your annotations, right? Be right there, and then move it over, right? And so now, same deal, and then you will go in and do your dimensions truly just the way you did before, okay? So that is it on our 3D desk project. Do dimensions, update your title block, and then export a PDF and turn it in. You guys, I was editing this video and I realized I forgot one of the very most important cool things that I'd like you to add to your final plate, and that is a 3D render view, right? So a lot of the time when you provide a drawing to your shops, if you can give them a 3D view, it's super helpful to make sure they get it right. We're gonna come back to our scenery plate. We're gonna actually tilt up into that 3D view that we've been looking at before, right? So that we see what it looks like. We're gonna switch in our teapot to hidden line. Great. This is the image that I wanna see, and now I can go to view, create viewport. It'll make it number 4, and this is gonna just say 3D render. And we'll put that on the same plate with everything else. I'm gonna make it bigger, right? So 1/2 inch, let's make it, yeah, something like that, update. I'm gonna just put the annotation a little bit more centered underneath it, right? But that is a really nice thing to provide with your build drawing so that if there's any confusion based on your 3 orthographic views, you can clear that up with the 3D render. We can also do very quick texture rendering eventually, so that'll be something we look at later in the course, so that this actually looks more like a realistic view. But when we're just starting out, it's great to just drop a plain old hidden line render view in so that everyone sees what it is supposed to look like. So that I just wanted to add that in. And other than that, I hope you guys have done well with this project, and let me know if you have any questions. All right, friends, thanks. Talk to you soon.